Good afternoon, everyone. We are live from Los Angeles. We welcome you anywhere and wherever you are listening. This is Mondays with Wallace, and we are glad to have you aboard. You are on Flight 420 out of Los Angeles. You can reach us on Mondays with Wallace at Facebook. We are on Instagram, and we are also on SoundCloud. Today is Monday, March the 11th. We are talking cannabis. We always talk cannabis. This is our cannabis show. I am live today with Steve Cotton from
SC Edibles.
Steve Cotton from SC Edmonds, and I am with Brandon
Tidwell.
Brandon Tidwell. I see Brandon's name all the time, and you think I'd still remember Brandon Tidwell, but I see, like, oh my God, Brandon. How are you doing, Brandon?
Doing well. Good to see you.
Good to be seen. Good to be seen. And we're also with Carol Lemire. Carol's not on camera, but Carol's one of our favorite people, and we're being produced by Lee Michaels at the Power Voices Studio in Culver City, California. Today we're talking cannabis, as we always chat about cannabis, weed, smoke, ganja. We've been thankful to have everyone here. Today we're talking about cannabis and water. The city of Los Angeles has decided that a way to strip some of the illegal businesses of the ability to make cannabis. I guess there's only a few licensed facilities in Los Angeles, and it's kind of a big thing that the city gets the money from these places. And one of the problems with starting a cannabis shop, as you all know, is just the licensing. The licensing is so prohibitively expensive that a lot of people can't really get in ground floor. So that's really a problem. And we're today going to focus specifically on water, and not just water, water generally in every aspect of cannabis. Your body typically is about, I think it's 60 or 70% water. So water is really important. We're also going to talk about just current events. Carol, we were talking about the Michael Jackson thing. The show, we went to Mike's house, you and I, and Neverland Ranch, and that was just a wonderful time. It's hard for me to believe any of the stuff that I've seen, although I understand the interview is quite compelling. Have you seen that?
I've seen snippets of it. I haven't seen the whole thing, but I got to tune in for a little bit.
Yeah, if it's true, it'd be quite disappointing. I certainly don't want to pass judgment because I've been there, multiple times, and I've seen nothing but just a glorious time for me. It's just been a glorious time.
I have a question because I personally know him.
Sure, you do, Carol. And
my question is, now, knowing Michael, he's like a child. He was like a kid, so I don't believe it, but why would parents allow their kids to sleep with a man?
Well,
that's my question. I'm just curious. Why are they? What was these parents? What's that about? Me knowing Wade.
You don't send your kids to a sleepover with a grown man.
But Wade's full of shit. He's a liar, and so is the other one.
Okay.
I mean, why haven't all the other kids? More kids are saying he never did nothing. There's all kinds of people. There's one guy I heard that I won't watch it myself.
Yeah.
Named Brian. He's suing HBO. They had no reason to put his name in there. He said Michael never did nothing to him. Being around Michael, I did a lot of pranks with him. He made me a kid at times.
Oh, is that right?
We would drive around and throw eggs at people.
Oh, is that one thing?
In his Bronco, we would crank people on the phone. I mean, these are things I did when I was younger, but with him, it's like you get into that element again.
I think there's
a lot of things I did with him that it's what teenagers do or younger kids to be funny.
He was a big kid.
Yeah,
he was definitely a big kid, and there was many times when you guys were at the ranch, you probably didn't know that he was in there. He was there, but he was in disguise, so you never knew it.
Well, that's
now
very
Scott
interesting.
used to go into the studio with them there and sing, and he would work with her. So he's never tried nothing on her.
Well,
and people ask me about my son, and I say, my son's been around him since he was born, and we've never seen any side of that.
I think a lot of people would agree that Mike did have certain elements that were childlike, and his manner and his disposition.
If you didn't know him, you didn't know that about him.
No, I think that was, he had always was always fascinated with the Neverland, the Disney, and I think when he would go to Paris, I believe he would go to amusement park, and a lot of times they close the
amusement. I was with them in
park.
Paris, and I'm gonna tell you where those kids are lying.
Mm-hmm.
They named a year that the Disneyland wasn't even built yet.
In Paris?
Yeah, in Paris when they put the Disneyland there. I've seen an article on it, and I said, no, it wasn't built then.
Well, you spent a lot of time with
Yes,
Michael
I did.
Jackson.
Yes,
and,
I did. So, of course, I'm going to defend him. I can't say my son never went in the room, slept with him, because I would never let my kids sleep with, even if you were my best friend. I'm not going to let my kids sleep in a house with you. That's just me. So my question, are these parents, did they do this? I know the Mexican kids did it intentionally because I introduced them to them and then found out they were con artists.
I see.
So I'm just saying, are parents guilty because they're out to try to get money? Because it's obvious these were grown men when they sat in court now and said he never touched them. Now, when Wade didn't get the job in Vegas, he turned it all around then because he was angry. And Wayne's a known person that gets jobs and sleeps with the person's wife or whatever.
Now, was Wade the kid that did the NSYNC? He became the NSYNC choreographer?
He was everybody's choreographer. Michael taught him well.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
I was on a Pepsi commercial Wade worked on, and Wade could dance just like Michael. So to me, I think it's more about money with Wade because he tried to sue him before, and the judge's question was, well, you were a grown man when you went to court, and your mother was too. You told a totally different story. Now you've come back, and you've created this. And to be honest, you guys, maybe y'all don't know this, he has an appeal now going on that.
Oh, Wade
So
does?
what's this telling you about him? He said it isn't about money. What's that telling you? I'm just saying people have been known to make up stories. I mean, there's more kids telling you he never tried anything with them. And I mean, the Chandler kid, I was at Michael's house once when I heard the kid call, and the kid was crying and asking, why is my father lying like this? Now, you don't find it weird that both these fathers committed suicide?
That's interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, his dad
Wade's
did.
father committed suicide, and so did Evan Chandler's father. Evan Chandler moved away from his father.
Carol, do you agree with the premise that Mike maybe spent some time in bed with the kids, even as a sleepover?
I've had kids come to my house. My son, let's say 5 of his friends are all spending night. I used to have this big bed, and we'd all watch a movie like Babe, and we'd watch movies and fall asleep. Now you're afraid to even have a kid come in your room because of this. And I mean, it's totally
you're right about
innocent.
that. So
But like I said, why would a parent allow their kid, just like the Art Kelly thing, why did these parents push their daughters on this man?
So you would agree that very possibly Mike had spent some time in bed, even if it's eating popcorn with the kids?
I don't know. I wasn't in there, but it was innocent, knowing Michael. I mean, that's my belief. People can believe what they want.
It's all he say, she say. There was no
Yeah,
cameras
that's
there.
what it is.
No cameras there.
Yeah.
And I mean, the FBI followed him for 10 years. Well, when they searched his place, where's all the evidence? They didn't find nothing. And just like his wife just came forward, Debbie, and she said, this is all bullshit. If you were around Michael and you actually knew him, he was like a child. And when people said he was shy because when he got Acme, people made fun of him, you know, and that bothered him. So he became this person, but he was far from, he was a kid, a person to me, a grown person that never got to be a child.
Well, Carol, you know our show is about cannabis and smoking
Yeah,
weed,
so
and
I'll stop now.
give me a yes or no answer. Don't say I don't know. Did Mike smoke weed?
No, I never seen him smoke weed.
So you don't think he smoked weed?
I don't know. If he did, big
Nah,
deal.
I tell that you can't give me I don't know
Big
answer.
deal
So
if he
you
did.
never
I don't
saw.
know either, but I think Mike was on some different drugs.
Well, he was certainly on different drugs.
Yeah, I think he was on
Well,
different
he
drugs.
took pills because when he got burned, he had to go right out on the road, and there would be surgeries trying to fix that where he was burned. And I remember he'd be infected because I had to clean it. They showed me how.
How to clean? How to clean
you get
what?
hooked on pills, and doctors at one time, pharmacists, to be honest, would give pills very easily to people. I've seen that myself. There
Easier
was,
than nowadays.
Yes.
Nowadays, it's much
They would
harder to
give-
get pain pills.
When I went to the Middle East, I didn't know I was carrying pills. I thought they were books. They were pills.
I'm sorry, when you went to where?
No, to the Middle East with
Middle
Michael.
East. I see.
So, to be honest, pills were very easy to get, and they're still easy in a roundabout way. People
Well-
know how to get pills when they want them.
Doctors today are being actually prosecuted for giving
Why don't they
narcotics to
prosecute
patients.
the pharmacist too? Because that's where he used to get his. It wasn't from a doctor. It was from a pharmacy.
Well, we don't want to get carried away there, Carol.
Yeah.
You guys know I'm a pharmacist, and we don't
Well,
want
I'm
to
just
start
giving you my
prosecuting
opinion.
pharmacists. Brandon, one of the things that Mike would take was propofol, which is a really good sedative. I have a brother who was actually shot, unfortunately, and my brother is notorious for getting not enough sleep. He is just, I mean, even for me, sleep is really challenging. My brother said when he was shot, when he was in intensive care, they gave him propofol. Propofol is the thing that Mike expired on. That's the thing that Conrad Murray was his doctor, I believe. Did you ever meet Conrad Murray, Carol?
No, he came after I
He
quit.
came after you quit.
Yeah.
But Conrad Murray they found Mike with, I believe, a benzos, diazepines, propofol, I think even some maybe Ritalin, I believe, or some stimulants.
No,
Some of
he
these
didn't have
medications
Ritalin.
He did not have
be-
Ritalin?
Some of these medications had to be actually administered by a physician too, right?
Well,
Exactly.
that's
Because
not
I heard Michael was
necessarily
giving these
true.
drugs to himself. He was pumping himself with these drugs himself when he
And
was
that
supposed to
could
have a
be
physician.
possible. That could
Yeah.
be very possible.
Mike was in such a. If you look at A&E, Mike was working with A&E, and he was trying to do a comeback tour. Have you seen any of the video from the comeback tour, his prep stuff? Carol, have you seen that?
No.
God, you gotta start watching this stuff. His work was amazing. If you look at it, Mike's abilities, to be at 50 years old, to be able to dance the way he danced, and this was very creative.
Actually, he didn't show up for a lot of those rehearsals.
Oh, is that right? Oh, I didn't know that.
No, he
But
didn't.
I have to wonder, Brandon, would Mike have been better smoking weed as opposed to doing propofol and doing, let's say, benzodiazepines? And even, for sure, he had Demerol, for sure, which is pain. But do you think, had you seen his special or no? Had you seen the special?
Was it the This Is It one?
This is it. This is it.
You know what? I think cannabis obviously affects everybody differently, right?
Sure.
But for him, his energy level, the way he had to be focused, I couldn't see him regularly using cannabis and still being the Michael
Well,
Jackson.
you know something too. He used to rehearse 8 hours a day. He would dance 8 hours a day.
That's just
So you're going to be
amazing.
in great shape when you do that and you sing as you're dancing. See, singers don't do that so much now because they're manufactured artists.
Mike
But
had-
I used to take Sky and make her run up that dune in Manhattan
yeah.
Beach. I would make her run up and sing.
Well, Michael Jackson, he had such a demanding schedule. Even he had lost quite a bit of weight. When the paramedics came to him, they thought he was an older man. He had looked his body and his body weight. It was much looked older than he actually was. So they thought it was an older man.
And where did you hear this at?
Oh, if you look at the coroner's report,
Yeah.
it's pretty widely known. If you look at some of his information, so cannabis you don't think would have been good for Mike, and my feeling is Mike didn't smoke cannabis.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think Mike smoked cannabis. So
I don't
Carol,
think he would have been as lively and able to perform because he had to be so focused on his performances. But I think the cannabis would have been a better alternative than
I
the
think so.
propofol
I think
and
so.
all those other drugs they were doing because they killed him. They took him out of here.
it did.
Maybe if Mike was smoking weed and he was able to get some sleep, then he'd still be here today. He may not be performing as well as he was
They were giving
performing.
him everything. I got caught in the Middle
Oxy's
East
for sure.
with it.
OxyContin, oxycodones, and the thing that these products do, when you take and we've chatted about this before for my listeners, when you take oxycodone and propofol and the benzodiazepams, which is a Valium, Ativan, Klonopin, I believe he had Klonopin, or Xanax. What happens is your ability, just as we are all talking here, we're breathing very naturally. What happens is your ability to breathe naturally stops. It's inhibited. Excuse me. And you get what you called respiratory depression. So you basically just stop breathing. I think that's how Whitney Houston expired. She had basically you stop breathing, and your ability to breathe is inhibited, and your body just stops breathing.
Well, I think too, because at one time they were so easy to give people pills. You used to be able to walk into a doctor and say, "Oh man, I hurt so bad." Next thing you know, they're writing you a prescription for drugs that you couldn't get now. Because there used to be one in Hollywood. All the Hollywood people got drugs from him, pills.
And, it's there's really a change in season as far as pharmaceuticals goes. However, I don't think it's right now, the direction we're going right now. And I am a pharmacist, and I do feel drugs are effective, even the oxycodones. But now you'll see, and Stephen, I believe you had either some trauma or some injury.
Auto accident.
They
were prescribing Vicodins. I'm allergic to Vicodins. I don't like the way they make me feel at all either. I've passed out on Vicodins several times.
Have you found that it has accommodated your pain?
Has it accommodated my pain?
Has it treated your pain?
It treats it, yes. It does treat the pain, but it gives me a nausea.
A little nausea.
No, will they still give people Vicodin?
Yeah, they do. But the physicians now have gotten so frightened.
Because they monitor them.
Because they monitor them, and they monitor them, pharmacists, everyone monitors them. And what is happening, and this is really what's happening, is patients aren't being treated adequately for their pain. You have people that are going in for motor accidents, and they're getting 1 or 2 days of Vicodin or Norco. And it's
That's
just
because of the misuse. So many people have misused the drug. They're selling these drugs on the street. They go to the doctor, and they're reselling these drugs on the street. So I understand. The physicians, they want to keep their licensing. They want to keep their certification, and they don't want to be administering these pills to the wrong people.
Well, you know what they call them? Medically wise now, drug seekers. And what they do is they'll hit an emergency and they pretend they're in all this pain, and they give it to them.
Right
and
now,
they'll
though,
hit different places.
As far as pharmaceuticals go, right now, we're not in a good space. Just because physicians are so frightened to prescribe, they're not adequately treating people. Now, you can argue that a lot of this is because of marijuana. Marijuana has hurt. It's really hurt a lot of drug industry, just because you're finding that people aren't taking antidepressants. People aren't taking. There's a real, like, numerically, you can see like a 15% decline in antidepressants, sleep meds, pain meds.
Because people are switching over to cannabis.
It's happening.
Yeah, because it's more natural and it's less life-threatening.
Marijuana, very possibly, and this will be a battle. Don't think for a minute pharmacies are going down, we're laying down, and not pharmacies. It's not me, but marijuana may be. No, it may be the Amazon of pharmaceuticals. It may be, although Amazon is perilous to a lot of industries. Amazon is perilous to your JCPenney's. Amazon is perilous to your Sears. And marijuana or cannabis may be perilous to drugs, and generally speaking. Sleep meds, any type of drugs. So looks like we have a call. It's probably who is that, Lee?
Alpha.
Oh, Alfie, good deal. Yeah, we'd love to have Alfie on. But before we get Alfie on, we're going to interject a little bit. I'd like to find out what's in the local news. I don't know if you guys heard about Trinity Love Jones. Trinity Love Jones is the poor girl that was killed, I guess. And, her parents did not. They actually, for the past week in Los Angeles, we were trying to identify who this poor kid was. We had found this kid
all over the United States.
Oh my God, yeah! I think everyone knows about it now. And I understand this was somewhere near your house, I believe, Stephen. Is that correct?
I live in the Hacienda Heights area, and the young lady was found right behind the Buddha temple. It's called Hasai Temple.
Okay.
And they just had the Chinese New Year there. It's been a lot of events going on in the area, and police and sheriffs were everywhere. Helicopters were everywhere.
So
and this
sad.
young lady was found.
Oh, that's really sad.
But you know what? Like I was saying before we went on air, A lot of times when it's a minority, they don't publicize it. You could go in and Google, say how many kids that are lost. You'll be shocked. There have been Native American women killed this last year.
It was on ABC. It was on all the newses.
No, I mean, this was after they found the body. But saying before, if it was reported, sometimes they just ignore it. Now, it's different if it's, excuse me if anybody white's listening, but it is a known fact. If it was a white kid, it'd be on constantly, this child is missing. And then another thing is, if it wasn't reported, then why wasn't it reported that your child's
missing?
Should
have been an Amber Alert out, right?
There should have been an Amber Alert. You're absolutely right.
Everyone's cell phone should have got the little ring and
you're absolutely
worldwide alert.
So I believe her parents are persons of interest. I know they've actually taken in 2 people. I don't know who it is. And LAPD. They're not announcing or they're not really chatting about how she was killed or how she met her demise. But that's just horrible. We have a phone-in call today. Alfie, we're always thankful to have you. Are you still in Chicago?
Oh, yeah, I'm still in Chicago.
How's the weather in Chicago?
Improving, let me put it like that. Anything's an improvement when the sun comes out.
Are you done with your bath?
You know, we're chatting about.
He was bathing earlier.
We're chatting about cannabis, and today we're talking about water. I have just had the hardest time with water and growing cannabis, and I don't know if. And I'm a pharmacist, and I come from a long line of not just from farmers, not just a pharmacist. I'm a farmer, and I just absolutely cannot grow cannabis. I've tried. I've used different mediums, and now I'm using. What is it that I showed you that I was using?
You got an awesome hydroponic system there in your home.
Mm-hmm. So is it the water? Am I using the improper water? Because the water I use is tap water.
There we go.
So you think it's tap water?
I thought there were so many different things that you could have been doing wrong over there, but you mentioned to me that you're using tap water, and that is a big no-no.
It's a big no-no.
Especially when you're trying to get those seeds to germinate. You need to use RO water. It's called reverse osmosis water. That tap water has so many chemicals and calcium and so many things on it that have not been removed. All those impurities have not been removed. A main thing that the plants don't like is chlorine. All of our shower water, our tap water, if you go to the water hose, it has chlorine in it. So that definitely is not something your plants like.
Is that mainly in California, or is it everywhere?
Well, I live near the beach, so we do get a salt water. I also have been using. I had tried using rainwater. So
that's much better.
Rainwater is better, but we have salty water near the beach. Do you think the salt matters?
Absolutely.
Why would you be using beach water?
Rainwater. Well, we get.
No, I'm talking about when you said the beach water.
Well, it's in my particular area. Since it's salty, you'll find that cars will rust faster because there's actually salt in the air. There's a little more salt in the air. So what you'll find is that it's just a saltier climate, and the dirt in my area is a different type of dirt. It has the consistency of a clay. So obviously I'm doing something wrong, but I thought this system, and what did you call it again?
Hydroponic system.
Hydroponic system. I thought I was really doing this right, and I'm getting so frustrated. And a lot of my listeners are getting frustrated too because we're trying to do this, and we're trying to figure this out. And
you got to follow the directions step by step, and you got to get somebody to help you. If you kind of go get one of those hydroponic kits from the store, or if you go on Google or Amazon, they have all these kits on how to grow weed. You could buy the kit, you can follow all the directions, and still not get a product like you, Wallace. You need some help, you need some guidance, you need to get dialed in. Yeah. What I would say is to go to your local hydroponic shop. Ours out here in Los Angeles is called Green Coast Hydroponics. And they'll tell you what you're doing wrong. They'll explain to you why you're not getting a plant to sprout with the tap water.
How is your other plants in your yard?
Oh, my other plants are fine. I grow strawberries and greens, and I grow tomatoes. My other plants are fine. So since I'm a pharmacist and also a farmer, I thought I was doing good. And that's why I was so disappointed last year when what plant I grew, someone stole it. And I know it wasn't Lee Michaels, but Lee seems to be very knowledgeable about someone stealing my last plant.
Nobody stole that wimpy-looking thing.
That thing died from polio.
Yeah,
That plant
You've
didn't
been
die.
having so many issues trying to get the seed to sprout and begin growing. Like Brandon mentioned earlier when we were here talking off the set, you may want to go to clones the next time you start.
What's a clone?
So you're having so many issues with the seed, trying to grow it from a seed up. You can start from a baby plant. A clone is a replica. What they can do is you can either, they slice the plant. They take a mother plant, a big marijuana female plant, and they will splice a piece off of it and plant that into the ground, and it begins to grow into its own plant. So those are clones. You don't have to grow from a seed to start your plant. You can go on to a previous plant that's already a mother. It's been weeks, maybe about 4 to 6 weeks. So it's probably about 2 to 3 feet tall already. And you could splice little pieces off the plant, put it into the soil, and it'll grow into its own plant. You don't need a seed at all.
I've seen young people grow them and no problems.
I don't know why I'm having such a hard time.
Because you're not into it.
No,
you're against cannabis. So.
It takes practice. I tried many times and I failed and failed and failed and failed. It wasn't until I went to the hydroponic store and got me an actual mentor and showed me what not to do that I had some success.
Well, I don't want to point fingers, and I'm so disappointed. By the way, Alfie, how's everything in Chicago again, Alfie?
Well, it's about the same. People are dying. People are killing.
Yeah, what's happening with the guy who had someone attacked him and
Jesse Smollett.
What's happening with Jesse Smollett?
Didn't he get 12? Aren't they indicted?
He was indicted. He was indicted on, was it 16 counts?
Yeah, something like that.
I believe it was 16 counts that they indicted.
Is he actually going to go to jail over this?
I don't think he should.
You know what? Yeah, he's going. You know why he's going to jail? Color of skin is sending him to jail.
Yeah, because that college kid that raped poor girls is going to jail.
You know, look at this. Look at the system. It's not going to work or turn out favorably for him.
Alfie, and you know you're on the left side a little bit as far as right or left side. You are. Come on, you are. Did you believe his story? Did you believe his story?
Let me put it like this. I had no reason to doubt his story. I didn't, and to be quite frank, Wallace, I really didn't give a damn.
Oh, come on. You were out there, were you protesting, and did you believe his story?
I didn't care. I didn't believe his story. I mean, I didn't give it any thought whether or not, if it were true. I didn't, my position on that was, dude, be careful at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
While you walking down the street, eating a Subway or whatever the hell it was.
Do you feel he should get a pass?
I feel they're making a whole lot out of it that they shouldn't be making. This deal about the false police report. You got police officers filing false police reports every day.
Brandon, should he get a what's his name again?
Jesse Smollett.
Jesse Smollett. Should Jesse Smollett get a pass?
You know what? I don't think he should. The truth is that he made such a commotion that there were so many resources that were dedicated to trying to solve if this actually happened and how it happened. And especially in the city of Chicago, I'm pretty sure we can all agree that there's more serious things going on.
Yeah.
So for that reason, you want to make an example out of people like that because our resources are limited.
So why does it have to be a person of color?
I don't think we really. I don't think we should put a person of color in it.
They do that. Let's face it. Let's be for real. This white college kid raped 4 girls. Is he going to prison? He's not even getting probation.
But Jesse should get a pass. He should get a pass.
I think he should.
Yeah, he should get a pass.
I think I would make him do
I'm not giving him a pass. This guy did a fake hoax, a hate crime, a hoax to try to boost his career. You don't get passes for that. You got caught, homie. You're going to pay the consequences.
Alfie, pass, yes or no?
No.
No?
No pass for this man.
Alfie, you got to be kidding me.
Forget the color of his skin.
No.
See, I agree with Wallace. I feel like I don't think it's some big crime.
If you give him a pass, what happens to the next one up?
I'm going to try it too. If you guys give him a pass, I'm going to try it too. See if I get away with it. See if it boosts my career.
Well,
he wasn't paid enough money, so he conjured this this fake assault up.
And it backfired on him. He's going to lose roles now. I don't think he's going to get more roles. I think he's going to get less.
So it could have caused
he's
riots.
He's done on the
people were angry.
And his money's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no one was harmed. Nothing bad happened.
But
he made a mistake. The poor guy lost his job. Passed.
You say nobody was harmed, but I know a lot of people that are in the gay community, and they were not happy at all about this act that he did. This so-called host.
Yeah, he should get a pass. He's a young kid. How old is he? Anyone know how old he is?
No.
I'm not sure. I want to say
24,
he's like
25,
24. Yeah. If he's in his 20s, he should get a pass. If he's in his 30s, he should probably know better a little bit. But I feel he should get a pass. I really do.
36 years of age. You don't get passes anymore. It's called
Jesse's 36 years of age?
Yeah.
You said 36 years old?
And the thing is, he's going to be punished anyway because he's not going to get jobs.
He's losing roles.
Yeah.
If he was a different race, would he still get the pass?
No. Yeah. He still gets a pass.
Ask Charlie Sheen, okay? Ask Charlie Sheen. Did Charlie Sheen get any more roles?
No.
Yeah, he's working.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Charlie
making
works.
big money.
I don't know if he's making big money,
I don't
but
miss anything he's on because I think he's really funny.
oh, Charlie Sheen's fantastic.
Yeah,
I know Charlie
looked
through a
past
friend.
all that. I was
and,
tired of Empire anyway.
Charlie's a great guy. I haven't really watched too much of Empire, so
I think it's wrong that he had AIDS and he went around and slept with all these women.
Yeah, that's wrong. I absolutely agree to that. So back to water again. Do you guys know how to pass a drug test? How do you pass a drug test?
I've never been drug tested myself.
Don't they drink cranberry juice or something?
There's a drink that you can go get at your local smoke shop, where you go get your local cigars at. They all sell a detox drink. And what you do is you stop smoking weed completely for a few days. You take this drink a few hours before your test, and you're supposed to piss clean for a few hours.
It works.
Yeah.
Well, of course, you guys know the answer because our show's about water. You just drink a lot of water. What happens
Not
is...
true. Heavy cannabis users will fail.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, very true.
Right?
Oh,
okay, there you go.
I've never been drug tested, but they say that just heavy water consumption, you'll still fail the test.
My studio hosts just disagree with me. They steal from me. They just like, I'll tell
and you can get a kit.
They just treat me.
You can get a kit and test yourself before you go into the facility and fail it. Before you go in there and make an ass out of yourself.
You just bring someone else.
You can test it. That's the best thing to do, Carol.
That's what most people do.
I've had to actually get ready for a drug test, and that's how I prepared. You get urine from somebody else that doesn't smoke, and you store it, and you take it in there with you, and you're supposed to be good to go.
That happens all the time.
That's your best bet.
Y'all are bad for my confidence.
You know what, Wallace? I've never been to these new weed stores, and my son took me the other day.
To a new weed
He took
store?
me out to lunch, and then he said, I'm going to buy you a vapor.
A vape?
I said, okay. And so I was shocked. You have to give your ID before you can go in. Then you go in this room, and you have to sit till they call you. And these people, the one that talks to you, they're so educated. I asked the girl, I said, so did you know all this before? I said, because you just seem to have so much knowledge. She said, well, they train you, but I could look at her and see, you've known this for a while. But they were all young people, now the salespeople.
How much was your vape pen that you spent? How much
I
did you
didn't
spend?
look. He bought it for me. But I said to her, I get depression. What do you have for that? So he bought me something for depression, but it's a little too strong for me. And it did take the depression away. Yeah, where it doesn't bother my lungs.
Well,
but I enjoyed that experience.
It's amazing how knowledgeable, and me being a pharmacist, I've talked to other pharmacists that are starting to look at the CBD oils, and the abundance of information out there is amazing. Brandon, just talking to you, and you, Stephen, I just learned so much every single week. So even my listeners, they come with questions, and typically, although I'm educating myself, I have to say, well, I'll have to wait till Monday when I talk to Brandon and Stephen, and usually they'll give me information. And you guys are really smart. I'm just amazed. I don't know why I can't raise the plants, the seeds. And I don't want to say maybe the person that gave me the seeds, and I don't want to mention his name, Steve Cotton. But
I got to take some time and actually get you to to sprout. We got to take some time and come over there and actually
Yeah.
get your system together and get your water system together. It takes time.
But
shouldn't be-
I don't understand, he's so against cannabis. Why does he want to grow it?
I'm trying to be knowledgeable.
Interested in it.
I'm interested.
Just
I'm
like
trying
you
to
were
be
intrigued when
knowledgeable.
you went into the
It's
marijuana store.
intriguing.
He's just as
Wallace,
intrigued
you know
by
why-
his little grow
I
kit.
was intrigued.
Hold on,
Yes,
Alfie.
of all
We
this
so appreciate
stuff.
Alfie from Chicago. Alfie, what were you saying?
You know why you can't grow weed, Wallace?
Why?
Your thumbs are black.
You're bad for my confidence. You're bad for my
Thumbs
confidence.
are black. You got black thumbs. Not
Hey,
green.
Nick, that's a good point right
Yeah,
there,
could
man.
be.
Those white boys can grow weed way better than us, man.
Well-
They're dialed in. They've been doing it for so many years. We haven't been really dibbling and dabbling with that industry. It's not us.
Well,
We need to get into it and learn it like they have. But it is honestly an industry where all the growers are mostly white.
well, no. I think when he says black, I don't think he means black. I think if you have a green thumb,
Exactly.
green thumb means that you. But I don't think it's a white or black thing. Green thumb means that you can just grow stuff. But I should have a green thumb because my family sharecroppers, my long time.
But
So
were you
How
a
many
farmer?
days did you spend in the field?
Yeah, I'm just curious too.
well.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm
once
curious
again-
about that.
Once again, if you have you guys ever been to a pharmacy? Have you been to pharmacies? When you go to a pharmacy, you'll see thousands upon thousands of drug bottles. And when you open up a drug bottle, you know the first thing you see?
Cotton.
Cotton. Who do you think's picking that cotton?
Not you.
Who do you think's picking that cotton?
You
The
didn't
pharmacist
pick
is picking cotton. The pharmacist is taking that cotton out of
No,
there.
Wallace, when you pick cotton, does it have little sticky things?
Well, I'm gonna tell you about picking cotton because
I
I have actually picked cotton. So, and my family actually years ago they used to have cotton, and it was kind of a thing that they just did. Cotton is really tough to pick because what happens with cotton is almost like a little poppy seed, kind of like, and it doesn't give you the cotton. You don't just pick cotton. Cotton is almost like picking from a rose, whereas you pick it, it's got like little, I haven't done it in a lot of years. There's like little sticky things on
I
it.
just asked you that, don't I?
Yeah, exactly. It has a little, cotton is, if you pick a lot of it, it actually, you actually hurt yourself, and you can't just do it. It's really tough to do. That's why when they invented the cotton gin, I believe, and I believe it was a black man that introduced that, I believe. But when they actually, and that was an amazing thing, and people thought that was one of the things that really helped people move away from indentured slavery, that kind of thing. But picking cotton is tough. You know what else is kind of tough? Picking strawberries. Picking strawberries is, I think, picking any type of fruit. When you look how cheap fruit is, when you go to the grocery store, fruit is so cheap. That is amazing. It's amazing that fruit is so cheap.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Even, marijuana.
But who picks that fruit? I'm just curious again with you.
Well,
Because he's always talking about, the immigration thing. Who picks that fruit?
immigrations, we have to
Who
put a.
picks the fruit?
Oh, it's probably immigrants that are picking the fruit.
Yeah.
Most
That's
likely.
what I thought.
Most likely.
Just
And
like the person landscaping and you. Maybe you should let them work on that plant. Because they probably know a lot more than you do.
you all are really bad for my confidence, but I'm gonna figure that out because I'm trying really hard, and it's a paradox to me because when you smoke weed is a weed, so weed supposedly just grows everywhere, and I'm
there's
just
so many
amazed why
different
I can't
types,
do
though.
it.
I think that's a misnomer. And that's why they're kind of trying to change marijuana. Now you hear people saying cannabis all the time because they respect it more as a plant. One thing I will say, though, is there's a really good book out there by a guy named Jose Cervantes.
Mm-hmm.
He's considered like a growing master. He's been doing it for years and years and years. And the name of the book is called the Horticulture Bible. It's an indoor growing Bible. And it tells you everything.
Indoor growing Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's better to grow cannabis indoors or outdoors?
Indoor. You can grow good cannabis outdoors, but you have to have good, just good elements altogether. Good sunlight,
Control the
good
system
water.
more indoors.
Yeah.
No, I'm just
Outdoors
curious,
is more
how are they
nature.
getting the different kinds? I noticed in that store, they don't keep the weed out there, but they have all different types. How do they get all the different types?
Of strains?
Yeah.
It's really just a lot of
names, all these names.
It's just really crossing the genetics of the plant. You know what I mean? You basically mixing plants with other plants, and it creates a new type of plant, and they rename it into something else.
I see.
So everything now is, they have indica, sativas, and hybrids, which is in the middle. Most of the weed out there today, 70-80% of it is probably hybrids.
Hybrid, which is a combination or a mixture.
Yeah, just a mixture.
When you hear hybrid.
And how do they make those vapors?
The vape pens, they use a lot of different scientific methods, but basically they take the weed and they heat it up and they use oils and they get this concentrated oil that's left over and they put that in the vape cartridges or in the vape pens that you see people puffing on all the time.
Now, is that dangerous for you?
It's a lot more concentrated. Oh, you have one right here.
I have two.
This is Mondays with Wallace. I am Wallace. We are at the Power of Voices studio in Culver City, California. If you are listening to our show on Facebook or whatever template you're listening to our show on, we absolutely need you to share our show for us. We're really trying to reach a lot more people, and we're getting a lot of good interactions with some of our listeners. Our phone number is 424-227-9461. That's our studio show. That's our studio number. We meet every Mondays at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So water is just really, maybe, is that my problem?
It could be. Our water is not the best out here in California. It's really hard on calcium. When you get out the shower, you're ashy as heck, man. It's all the calcium we have in the water. And chlorine.
So you think I should, so what type of water should I use? Because I don't know that I have the discipline to use a certain water. Would distilled water be okay? Because distilled water has no...
You can use distilled water if you want to use that. I use that in my hydroponic system.
You have a hydroponic system?
Yes, I have one.
And where do you grow yours?
Mine is called the Aquapot. I'm not growing currently. I was growing maybe about 6 to 8 months ago. I was at my mom's house still then, and I was growing over there at my mom's house. That's why I got put out the house.
Oh, she kicked your ass.
Mom kicked me out the house for all my plants over there.
Did she let you take the plants?
Well, I sold off the plants.
Oh, okay.
I sold them.
Yeah.
But, I use distilled water. I went to Ralph's, and I used Sparkletts distilled water, and it has no chlorine in it. It has no calcium. It has no chlorine in it. Your plant can thrive in that system. So distilled water is a good way to go. Another way to go is to maybe spend about $40 to $50 and get an RO machine. An RO machine is a little machine you hook up to your water hose or your sink in the kitchen, and that'll filter out all the water so that you can grow with it. Because as you grow, you're going to learn that water is a big issue. Yeah. And it becomes very pricey to keep going to Ralph's and buying distilled water. You keep going to Ralph's every single day just to keep your plants alive, that adds up.
What's the amount of water that a typical plant uses, if you know the answer to that?
Yeah, as a baby, your plant's not using much water at all. But when your plant starts to get older and older and becomes a mom, that plant is drinking gallons of water per week.
Is that right?
Oh, my God. It keeps expensive. Each plant.
Each plant. Is that right?
Would the rain have helped this plant?
The rain will help your plant, but not if your plant is indoor. It's not going to help it at all.
But I've planted outside, and I've got nothing. I mean, I think you've come over.
Outside, but it was under a shade. It had a roof over the top. It's not getting much rainwater with the roof over that thing.
So, Brandon, do you feel my seeds? Because I planted actually seeds. I've really stayed with seeds. Do you think my seeds have died? Do seeds die? I thought seeds would.
If you planted them and they didn't sprout within a certain amount of weeks, it's done.
Yeah.
It's done.
And the other thing...
I'm really surprised, though, because he said the beach. I used to have a house in Santa Monica on Bay Street, right by the beach.
That could be an issue, too.
Between me and you, I did throw seeds of weed mixed in with sunflower, and they grew. They grew.
The humidity and the salt in the air could be an issue, too.
Yeah.
Messing with his indoor grow and his outdoor grow. These are questions that you can ask your mentor at your hydro store. Yeah.
So if you can, you or Brandon, tell me the top problems that I'm having to get a product.
Well, I'll say a couple of problems could be. One is it could be your soil.
So you think it's my soil?
Because your soil, you actually have to test the pH of your soil. If your soil is too acidic, then those seeds will never sprout. They'll never grow. And that's kind of why when we talked a little bit earlier about germinating the seeds. Germinating the seed is basically you take a seed, you put it on a damp paper towel, and you set that paper towel in a Ziploc bag. And it creates this humid, moist environment, and the seed sprouts really quick.
Is that right?
And then once you have a sprouted seed, then you can plant it in the ground and you'll see it grow. Because sometimes seeds have a hard time growing just from a seed. The other thing, we've been talking about water this whole segment.
I'm sorry, can I ask you, so you mentioned the Ziploc bag and you mentioned germinating it. Mm-hmm. Do I actually close it?
Yeah.
How does it get air?
It doesn't. And that's what creates the humidity. The moistness and the fact that it's airtight in there is what's creating this humid environment. And that's really where marijuana grows the best, is in these humid, warm environments. That's why you see it in South America and you see it in, certain parts of Asia.
Mm-hmm.
You can Google it. When you get home tonight, I want you to Google germinate marijuana seed. And it'll show you different ways. There's several different ways. Some people just take a cup of water and let them sit in there.
Let it sit inside a cup of water?
Yeah. And once they start floating after, I think, 12 to 24 hours, you take it and you plant it. And it just helps speed up the process. So you can get a leaf coming out of your seed.
And this is 12 to 24 hours.
Classes on how to grow it now. I thought I've seen that where people can actually go take a class.
They had there was a dispensary that was actually in
classes and make some money.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I know in Venice they used to have a dispensary out there, and what they would do is have people come in on a certain day, and they would teach you how to grow. You would get your own clone that they would give you, and they would teach you how to grow it. And I think it was like once a week people met.
What's
and they
the university up north they have?
It's called Oaksterdam.
There we go.
How did you learn?
I learned from for a few different ways. Obviously from books. Jose Cervantes, the one we were talking about earlier, is an awesome source. And then I also learned just trial and error. And then I learned from going to dispensaries. We've had medical cannabis dispensaries in LA since maybe the mid to early 2000s. So going in there on a regular basis, talking to the people in there, trying different products. And you just kind of learn over time,
So you haven't been kicked out of the house yet, though?
I'm on my way.
He's on his way. I talked to his mom, man. He's not going to make it much longer either.
I'm following Steve's blueprint. It's not working.
So you two should get a place.
But we absolutely, positively need you all to share the show. So if you're enjoying the show is free. You're listening to the show for free. Please share the show. We absolutely need you to share the show, especially if you're listening on Facebook. Next week, we're going to chat about, I guess did you see the text I sent you yesterday, Brandon? Did you see it?
We're talking about,
I guess Los Angeles has a social equity program.
Yeah.
And the social equity program allows you to actually get into the market. And it allows the licensing to be a little easier for you. And that is if you've had, if you've had a drug possession on your profile. Are you familiar with that?
I think it has to be cannabis related, right? Mm-hmm.
If you have a cannabis related.
Can't be any drug possession. It has to be a cannabis related.
So that gives you an opportunity to actually get in the market.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
For so many years, young black men have been blackballed from the business. They didn't want us to make a business out of this. They wanted us to continue being drug dealers in the neighborhood.
And they shut a lot of their stores down.
A lot of stores have been shut down, but a lot of people made money. If you today all of a sudden were besieged by some catastrophe in your life, how would you go out to make money tomorrow? And a lot of people would sell weed or sell. So we're going to talk about that. That's going to be our show next week. And we want everyone to tune in, and we want everyone to listen and share the show with everyone. We're going to talk about how you can get in if you have no money at all, what your options are. And you don't have a lot of options. Selling weed on the corner used to be something that was the way people got into the field, and that's how you did it. And can you still do that? Maybe the social equity program is a way that people who...
Well, Wallace, they did a thing last month telling you that the stores aren't making the money they expect them to make.
They're not.
It's obvious people are still going to the underground.
The black market is, and I hate to call it black market, but that's basically where... I wonder, are you getting a better product or a worse product on the black market?
Probably better.
I think street weed is better than dispensary weed.
Is that right?
When I purchase my marijuana, I like to get it from my local guy I've been dealing with for over 10 plus years. It's more potent to me. I know what I'm getting. When I go to the dispensaries, I don't know where that stuff's coming from. I don't know who grew it. It's just so many question marks. And it's usually more expensive when you go there. It's watered down. I don't like dispensary weed. I like that good street weed.
You are in Los Angeles. This is Flight 420 out of Los Angeles. We've been chatting with you about marijuana. We talk every single week about marijuana. I'm here with Steve Cotton and Brandon Tidwell and Carol Lemire. We touched about a little bit of the Michael Jackson thing. Touched on a little bit of the Trinity Love Jones things, and we spoke about marijuana and how to use water with marijuana. I am Wallace Peoples. I want to thank you for joining us. This is, need a little more time?
You got 9 minutes.
Oh, 9 minutes. You put up the 5 a minute ago.
No,
it was 15.
Oh, it was 15. Oh. Oh, 15. I guess we got a little more time. And I always want to thank Lee Michaels. Lee is, he's my coach. He has a iRadio coach, and my podcast skills we've done this for about a year now, and we actually have talked about.
It's been that long.
It's been a year, absolutely, and we've talked about a lot of the things that I do that are wrong. After the show, very typically, I try to ask Lee, what do I do wrong? The people on Facebook always tell me what I'm doing wrong. I always get my Facebook comments are things like, "You're stupid." This is dumb. This is dumb. Whose idea was that? You know, what the hell's wrong with you? You know, take off that lab coat. I get this. Smoke a joint. Yeah, this show is really bad for my it's bad for my ego. But I'm really grateful for everyone that comes in, and I find that everyone typically disagrees with me. We sell the show. We initially had sold the show as being conservative based, and conservative is kind of a bad word nowadays. And I'm not a conservative at all.
Oh, I don't know about
no,
that.
I don't smoke, and I've never smoked, although I'm sure I've had some contact high at some capacity.
Now, do you drink?
I absolutely drink.
Well,
and
that's worse.
I absolutely drink, absolutely.
Yeah. Try smoking.
I think if you look at what's worse between drinking, smoking, or drugs, what do you think the worst thing is?
Drinking.
Doing hard drugs.
Hard drugs?
Drinking and hard drugs, but
I think drinking's the harder thing. When you look at some of our veterans, I work for the Veteran Administration, and not just veterans, but when you look at a lot of people that are homeless, there's the feeling that people that are homeless have done something bad in society. And that's really not the case. Drinking is really harsh on your body. It's harsh. When you take one drink of alcohol, you add fatty cells to your liver. And typically when you have liver dysfunction, when your liver goes out, you have a lot of trouble. So my feeling, drugs can actually affect your liver in a bad way. So to me, alcohol is maybe the worst. Prescription drugs are really so potentially lethal. I guess that has to really raise an eyebrow. Marijuana, I think the jury's out still.
I think we all agree that marijuana is the least out of those three, though. Out of hard drugs, alcohol, and marijuana, I think we're all in the studio. I think we all agree that cannabis is the least.
I think cannabis is probably the least lethal. Probably the least lethal. But the problem with cannabis is there's so much indecision out there, in my opinion, on who gets it, how to use it. Do you give it to your dog? How much do you use? And we're working on a book. We're still trying to get it to production. We were trying to actually come up with guidelines for how much to use. And that's the thing with that. That's the difference between alcohol, drugs, and cannabis.
No.
Alcohol is, what is it, 8% for beer, or 4% for beer, 4.5% for beer, or it's 40%, wherein, Vicodin is 5 milligrams. Marijuana, we're not really sure. I think, Brandon, you have some really good ideas about how much cannabis to put in butter. We were talking about 7 grams. And we know really how much, if we're testing you, we know it's 50 nanograms. But I think there's a lot of where are we at with, like, if I buy weed from you or the dispensary, how much is in there. So there's a lot of differences based on that. And I think that's the difference. And that's why I'm not sure about cannabis because who knows what people are getting.
Now, can cannabis help a dog if he's having seizures? Because there's a dog at the beach. And they asked me that. I said, well, I don't really do it.
They have a whole line of
And I'm just curious,
CBD
where
products
can
for
they
pets.
get it?
Also
Yes.
helps them for skin problems.
Yeah, well, this little one's been having seizures. And I told him if it helps people, how would you figure out how much you would give an animal? How would you do that?
Yeah, no,
See, that's the issue, and that's
Yeah.
the problem with cannabis. And hopefully, as we become more knowledgeable, and it's just going to happen, there's such an abundance of information. Knowledge absolutely is power. And that's the whole reason I'm hoping our people listen to the show. I'm hoping that's what they gain. That's certainly what I gain. I gain the knowledge just working with you guys. I'm so blessed and so thankful to have the ability to work with you all because it's such a wonderful learning experience for me. And I'm a pharmacist, and I see so much. I see such an abundance of information. So you think again, just to summarize, so my water is probably the problematic. I put grow lights in there. I thought that would solve the problem. How many grow lights do you need, or how much light do you need? Can your plant get grow lights 24 hours a day?
Babies don't need much light.
They don't need much
You're
light.
just trying to germinate. All you're trying to do, you need less than 6 hours a day.
Less than 6 hours a day. Do you need 6 hours of direct light, or
Yes, 6 hours of direct light right on there.
6 hours of direct light? What other problems would you see that I've done? Because I have absolutely,
Planting the seed too deep. Some
I
people plant
hate
the seed too deep.
too deep. So you're planting too deep.
That's possible.
And then also, we didn't mention it, but the temperature of your water.
Mm-hmm.
If your water is too cold, it will shock the plant.
Well,
and it will
in
stop-
Los
it will
Angeles,
stop
it's
the growth
been cold.
process.
You know, we haven't had a day in February above 70 degrees in Los Angeles last month, which is really remarkable. And
Temperature in the room too. You're growing this indoor. You need to control the indoor temperature. It has to be set at an indoor temperature.
yeah, well, that's something
It
to
could be
consider.
too hot. It could be too cold in your house.
As far as what I've done with this podcast, and I want to do better with everything, but I feel like trying to grow has been a complete failure. I just feel like I have just failed, and and there's an argument that maybe the person that gave me the seeds, so I won't mention his name, but there may be an argument that he gave me bad seeds. Do you think you gave me bad? No, not you.
There
I know you
are
didn't give
bad
it to me.
seeds out there. There
Bad
are bad
seeds?
seeds out there,
Yeah.
but I know that guy. He's got some good ones, man.
He's got some good
He's
ones.
got
I
some
have a
good
question, though. How long have you two been doing this? I mean, you are very young.
I've only been growing marijuana since the past 2 years, and I stopped.
How long
I
you
don't.
been
I don't
kicked
grow
out
anymore.
of the house now?
I've been kicked out for over a year.
And you, when do you think you'll be leaving?
It'll be shortly, probably within the next 6 to 8 months.
So will you be able to do your bake? You'll have to bake somewhere else?
Oh yeah. I think it'll be better because I can set up a whole operation. So
I'm almost tempted to invite you guys to come live with me just to figure out my problems here with being able to grow. And as far as, things are changing so much. If you look at the ideology of growing, there are years, I'm sure, Carol, the years that we would come up, and Lee yourself too, if you heard someone was growing marijuana or selling marijuana, you had this idea that they were really bad, or
I've never felt that now.
Well, I mean,
Not with
that's
weed.
been the common denominator, I think, in society. I think
I
people,
have more of a problem with somebody selling meth or crack or stuff, but not weed.
even meth and a lot of this psychotropic, really bad drugs, people are trying to use them for treatment of depression. What's ketamine? Are you familiar with ketamine? Ketamine is one of the old school drugs that creates all these different euphoria, and we're using it now in surgeries. We're using it to treat people that are in discomfort and pain. They also have a nasal spray that was just approved last week that's used for depression.
Really, what's in it?
Ketamine.
Is ketamine
Ketamine
bad
is
for
ketamine is it initially gained some usefulness in society as a horse tranquilizer. It was actually a horse tranquilizer, and now they use it
what
now.
was the name of that other stuff that was out? Everybody was doing for a minute, all the kids.
the
Ecstasy.
salvia. Was it
And
salvia?
ecstasy.
Oh.
Remember, they were doing ecstasy, and they
Molly.
say they use that to tranquilize animals.
We're again going to wrap our show up. I want to thank everyone for listening. Next week, we're going to talk again about people trying to get into medical marijuana or marijuana on the ground floor. We're going to talk about actually laws that are there for people that don't really have a lot of money. And that's most people in society. Most people in society don't have a lot of money. So I guess the question is there hope for you? I know you're in Inglewood, and Inglewood seems to be a progressive place where they're trying to allow. Where are they at with marijuana, Inglewood?
It's banned in Inglewood right now. They're trying to have it so you can only get it from hospitals.
Well, we're going to talk about that next week. This is Mondays with Wallace. I am Wallace Peoples. You're on Flight 420 out of Los Angeles. Thanks for listening. I'm going to say good night, everyone. We'll talk to you again next week. Thank you. Bye.